and staff will participate in this meeting via video conference, and public comments can be submitted in writing to admin@rd900.org. And please write public comment, not on the subject line. The link to watch the meeting is via YouTube at the Reclamation 900 District's website. And next, we will go to item 1 to approve the agenda. So ask for motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Councilmember Alcala moved, and Trustee Alcala moved, and Trustee Corina second. Mr. General Manager, can you please call the roll?
Yeah, President Guerrero,
Aye.
Trustee Alcala,
Aye.
Trustee Ledesma,
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved. We will next move to item number 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. And Mr.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Madam
Oh.
President. I don't know if that was captured that I actually voted aye as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you agree?
Okay. And so we'll move to items not on the agenda. Mr. General Manager, are there any written or live public comments?
No, there are not.
Okay, we'll move next to item number 3, the consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes. I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Councilmember Alcala moved.
I'll second.
Ledesma, second.
Okay, Councilmember Trustee Orozco seconds. Mr. General Manager, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Ledesma,
Aye.
Trustee Orozco,
Aye.
Trustee Alcala,
Aye.
President Guerrero.
Aye, motion is approved. Next item is item 4, the district financial update. Mr. General Manager, will you be presenting on this?
Yes. Everybody have an opportunity to look over the financials. For this month, there were no significant expenditures in any of the particular items. We continue to move towards the Blacker Canal and the building remodel, which will be significant expenditures in our repair, replacement, rehabilitation budget items, which go largely unspent this year. As for anything else, we had just our normal expenditures in our miscellaneous and our admin and labor. If there aren't any questions, I don't believe we have any updates for this.
Okay, bring it back for discussion among the trustees. Are there any questions or comments?
Nope.
Nope, okay. And I'll open it up for public comment. Any comments, either in writing or live public comment?
No comments were submitted.
Okay, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the trustees. And if there are no comments, then we can move to the next item is 5. We have 2 presentations. The first is 5.1, the 2019 audit presentation. I believe we have Ms. Cropper who will be doing the presentation.
Hi. Actually, tonight, as I understand it, we had a conference call yesterday with Roberta and the city's auditors, and just with an update. We had on Wednesday, we had about 3 items that we were still outstanding on that were going to result in adjustments to the financials. So we're close. We're down to just the 1 item, but we're dependent upon Cal OES getting back to us to confirm balances. And we may be needing to restate the prior year financials. One of the control weaknesses, significant deficiencies actually, that we noted last year's report was the way in which receivables were being recorded. In other words, they really weren't all year, and they weren't being processed through the accounting system. So we did find a large amount of money that had been billed on district letterhead to Cal OES, hadn't received much that money in 19 or really in 20 that much. And you just can't tell based upon the receipts that they send. They just send a check. And we didn't know how much was still outstanding or how much had originally been approved. They send in all, it was the prior engineer, district engineer that had done this. And so a lot of the institutional memory has been lost. So we are hoping to work with Cal OES to kind of piece together the last couple of years with this grant. And then we'll know what the adjustments are going to be. So that's kind of the long and short of it. I can get into more detail, which we talked about with Roberta yesterday, but that's where we are. We're done otherwise. So.
Thank you, Ms. Cropper. Are there any questions among the trustees?
If I may,
Go ahead, please.
Madam President, you're president on this one, right? That's right. We call it what we are. Okay, so this is Ms. Cropper, right? I'm sorry. So through the 2019 audit is what you're going through, trying to.
Well, it affects 19 and
finalize.
20 because they're still paying on those amounts down, and they don't ever pay what's been billed. And they send a check. There's a number of grants that were billed with a number of invoices. We're just not sure what's been paid on what and how much is outstanding. So we need their help to do that. And the fortunate part is that it's underneath the $750,000 threshold. So this isn't affecting a single audit. These aren't being audited per the uniform guidance, but it does affect the receivable that are on your books. So, yeah.
Right. So the actual audit isn't, you're not prepared to finalize that until you get this final information, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we can't. We just have to have that warm and fuzzy that we believe that's the right number, or at least fairly stated.
Fair enough. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. It should be within the next week, actually. So if we can circulate the question yesterday, in yesterday's meeting was because they've got their own March 31st single audit deadlines and are trying to get the CAFR report done. I don't think it's going to be a problem at all if we get everything by next week from Cal OES, but we don't want to go too far into March because they need those numbers to incorporate into the CAFR. So anyway, right now we're hopeful that it'll be resolved next week. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Any other questions among the trustees? I do have just one quick question. So the CAFR has a expected due date when that needs to be reported out, I guess.
Well, the CAFR actually doesn't, but the single audit report that the city files and that the district will file has a March 31st deadline.
Oh,
It's
okay.
9 months after the fiscal year ends. So we're working on that deadline, and then they are working with GFOA just to let them know that that this report's been delayed. Right now, I think we might be on the original deadline if we can get it done next week. But they have a lot of work left. Once we get the numbers finalized, there's still quite a bit of work to do on reports. So that's really where we sit.
I see. Trustee Alcala?
I'm so new to this, but if we're late, are we ever sanctioned financially for this?
The single audit, never. It's I've been doing this many years, but you want to get it in because what you don't want is to be late and there are repercussions on the next year's audit, because if you've submitted it late, then you can't be considered a low risk auditee, which means it's a more expensive audit, just for that one compliance mishap. So anyway, there are lots of ins and outs of all of those federal regulations, but that's the main reason. But it's due by March 31st. Yeah, and that's due meaning into the database due. So we want to get it approved by you. We can move forward with a solid draft and they can do their work, but we'll need to make sure that this board's approved it before we file next month.
And you, excuse me, Madam President. So when you say they, it's the city, I'm assuming, is that who you're saying that?
No, the district, actually, because this single audit report's being filed separately from the cities. Their financial statement information is being consolidated in the city, but the single audit reporting is being done on a recipient basis. So it's just the district's report. Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
So you'll think you'll have enough time then to, for our next meeting, to have enough time to do it?
Yeah. There should be no trouble. We did go to the city to ask if they had any good contacts because, Tim just hasn't been really operating with, or hasn't needed to really get hold of them, but we need to expedite these questions through them. We need to know who to deal with. So anyway, he's done a good job getting on top of that. And there's a confirmation that's been sent over for them to reply to.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for, I just actually one more question. So because you're having to do all this research, is there anything prior to that that we didn't do that had yet to get done to meet those requirements? Like for some reason, all of a sudden, this just didn't happen overnight. Like we missed 1 year and that was it. Is there any history?
Well, this is the first year you've ever had a single audit with the district. They've never had this kind of activity and grant activity. Last year, didn't meet the $750,000 threshold to have the single audit, although it did still have the requirements to meet them, but you didn't have to have an audit. So this is the very first year. And this grant activity, there's all of you, as you well know, you've got Department of Water Resources, FEMA, CalOES, you've got all sorts of different funders, and it's more complex than it's ever been for the district. And they've never really had an accountant. This year, Kim did a great job of going out and getting a good CPA to help with the month-to-month accounting, and that's really helped. But in the past, the infrastructure has just not been there, but it's been very, very simple, keeping their books on a cash basis until we come in and convert to a GAAP basis once a year. So this is really a different matter. And if I suppose, I don't know, Tim, how many years you anticipate this kind of grant activity, but probably for the foreseeable future, you'll have single audit reports in addition to the regular audit.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you have any questions, just email me or let Tim know, and he'll get a hold of me. But we're happy to report back next month. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I guess that concludes that item. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm getting an echo.
I'm getting an echo too. Tim, do you have like both the phone and?
No, I just have my computer on.
Okay. You might have to suffer with this for the rest of the meeting. Let's go on ahead to the, so are there any other questions, trustees, or can we move on to the next item at this point? Okay, we'll move on. Item 5.2, Blacker Ditch Bank Stabilization Bank Project and Access Road Improvement Project Update, which is CEQA compliance and timeline. And Mr. General Manager, do you have anybody that will present on this?
Yes, I brought Marcus on board. So what we're at is we're at a point where we need to solicit to the public our intent for a mitigated negative declaration for the project. And at that point, we will circle back with the board after that period has ended and seek an approval of that mitigated negative deck and move on to attaining our permits as needed. So Marcus, would you be willing to give us a little update?
Yes. Now,
there you are.
operator error on the on that, but yes, we have some unusual type issues associated with COVID-19 and the notification process, and one of the things that we normally have to do is have hard copies at your office and at the library, but I don't know if the office is open to the public or the library is open to the public at this point or not.
I know we are. I can't speak for the library.
Okay. So what will happen, we'll put the notification out because it's called the to the public, and that'll go through the clearinghouse and go electronically, and then we'll have a article placed in the newspaper, the local newspaper, that basically explains the process that we're going to be doing, and then saying that the administrative record, which is basically the mitigated negative deck and the biological wetlands and other documents that we've used to support this project will be in hard copies. And there'll also be electronic copies available if somebody wants them and they contact you, Tim, and says, you know, I don't want to come into the office. Can you send them to me? They're emailable in PDF. And then based upon the comments from the regulatory agencies and the public, we'll try to answer those comments. I really doubt we're going to get a whole lot of comments on something like this. It's not a very controversial project. And then once the 30-day comment period's over, we'll have another opportunity to present this information to the board. And the board will say, well, let's go forward with it. And then we'll publish what they call the notice of determination. And at that point, the project is approved. And for the purpose of state permits and things like that that are state related under CEQA. So it's pretty straightforward, except for the fact that the state clearinghouse is under all sorts of restrictions due to COVID-19. So everything's going to have to go to them electronically. And Tim, you probably received an email today that authorized you also, besides myself, to submit these documents electronically to the state clearinghouse.
I did receive that email, yes.
So if anybody has any questions, it's really straightforward at this point.
Are there any questions at this or comments among our trustees? No questions or comments. And I'll open it up for public comment at this point. Any public comment live or written?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. General Manager. Public comment among these, if there are any additional questions. Thank you so much, Marcus. I appreciate it. No. And I wanted to council, if the library is closed, what's the alternative plan?
I think what we should do is first confirm whether or not the library is open. If they're not available, then we will see if there's a way to find their regulations for an alternative public notice posting. And if not, then we'll rely on electronic posting and make sure that word gets out to the public that the documents are available as you head toward the consideration of the mitigated negative deck.
Madam President.
Sure, go ahead.
I think that's a great idea. Sorry, I'm hearing the echo. Maybe we should all mute. The other thing is that, you know, we have the security desk at City Hall, and so they're always open. And somebody could even go out there, and if they really wanted to view any documents, they could just go and ask to draw it from our security office. But also, yeah, maybe a widespread social media, or maybe not social media, but just, you know, posting that folks could access the document either on the city website, RD website, or any others, even the library website, if that's where they're going or they expect to find the documents.
Yeah, this is something I can post on our website. It'd be quite easy to do.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments, we'll move to, thank you so much for the presentation and the update on this.
Okay, well, I'll drop off and say, I'm always available for questions if you need to.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Next item 6, endorsement of Valley Flood Board permit for Shell Oil Facility at 1509 South River Road. Mr. General Manager, do you have an update on that?
Yes, I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to look through this, but what this pertains to is in the Pioneer Bluff region, we have Shell pulling out this permit through AECOM, and what they're attempting to do is remove various infrastructure from what is considered by the Central Valley Flood Protection Board the levee prism in that region. So we've got a couple of buildings underground utilities, foundations that are being removed. What they determined is what they felt was the theoretical levee prism in that region, and they're having those items removed as part of their remediation process for cleaning up the site. Pretty straightforward from our aspect. There's not a whole lot for the district to get involved in, other than this permit requiring our endorsement for the as the maintaining agency. So
Thank you, Mr.
Hello.
Chair. I'll bring it back to trustees if there are questions. Trustee Ledesma.
I think that was the echoes. Tim, honestly, Tim, I think you're the source, so if you stay on mute, it might work. So, yeah, so I guess this might be for council grant this permit, because this is a pretty major demolition at the Shell, which is good for everybody, I think. But I know the liability for the environmental cleanup is there, but is there any, are they responsible for any impairment to the actual levee itself if something were found along the demolition or anything to that degree that we should worry about in this permit?
Well, the thing that the district and you should be concerned about is whether or not the work to be done within the district's right of way along the levee, whether that work impairs or affects any of your infrastructure. Typically with the permit, with Tim, if you could just wait, thanks. With the permit conditions applied to the project by the RD, they should prevent any impairment of the structure in the levee prism and continue to provide flood protection. So if they were to do any harm, then they would have to repair, replace, maintain it so that our interests are preserved. That's the nature of the permit.
Thank you. That was my question.
Mayor Guerrero?
Sorry, I'm here muted. Trustee Alcala, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed the part. So who is requesting the permit? And would be responsible?
So the permit is being requested by AECOM, which is the engineer for Shell Oil for the site.
Okay, thanks. Now, my mom actually used Shell Oil back in 1968, 1973. So they're taking down wells, they're taking everything out, is that correct?
That is correct. With this permit, they're removing all facilities that lie within what is considered the theoretical levee prism in the area.
So as far as our city, I mean, our liabilities, that's totally on them with the permit, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Thank you, Trustee Alcala. Are there any other questions among the trustees at this point? Oh,
Madam President, I do.
yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I just was hoping that someone could educate me on this. When and if there's ever a situation in situations like this where there's Indian remains or Native American remains, I mean, how does that affect us, if at all? It's a random question. I'm just trying to understand the process when we have situations like this.
I can answer that, General Manager, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the folks carrying out the project, the folks that are asking for the permit, those are the folks who would be doing a a pre-construction cultural survey. They'd be coordinating during their permit process and their CEQA process with the local tribal entities and ensuring that any cultural resources are protected and dealt with during the project to the extent they're encountered. Sometimes that requires monitoring, coordination, surveys, but I don't have any addition. That's just a typical case. I don't have any information about this particular project and how that coordination may be taking place. But again, the issuance of the permit wouldn't be a triggering event for the district to have to worry about the cultural resources.
I see. Thank you. I'll talk to you about that later. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
President Guerrero, this is Greg Fabian, and I can maybe add a little bit to that if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
Generally speaking, the owner of the property is responsible for whatever material may be discovered, cultural or otherwise, and they must comply with state law. So unless RD 900 is the owner of the property, then they presumably would not be liable for any resources that were discovered or anything of that nature. It would rely with the owner of the property, and then they must comply with state law.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And all right, I'm going to open it up for public comment. I don't think I have done that already, so I will open it up. And Mr. General Manager, are there any live or written public comments? Oh, you're muted now.
There we go. No comments were received.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment and bring it back to the trustees. And just good questions that were brought up among the trustees. Thank you for those questions. And this is a pretty extensive permit. There's a lot of detail in here. And I think you're asking for us to approve this and accept.
That is correct. As part of the board's approval of this permit, it requires that the our board approve this permit and sign off on it.
Okay, great. So I'll accept a motion to approve.
Madam President, yeah, this is a good thing. I mean, I think this is we're in the city hat today, where we're in the board hat, which is granting them permission to do work on the levee. And but all around for the reclamation district for the city, this is a very positive development, and we seem to have our liability covered from the applicant should any damage be done to the levee. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Ledesma, and Trustee Alcala, who seconded. And Mr. General Manager, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Ledesma.
Aye.
Trustee Orozco.
Aye.
President Guerrero.
Aye.
Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
Very good.
All right, thank you. And is approved. We'll now move to consideration of endorsement for the Central Valley Flood Control Board permit for geotechnical explorations by PG&E for a gas transmission main project. Mr. General Manager, will you be presenting on this?
Yes. So this permit is along what we refer to as North Levee, which starts at the causeway and runs up to the railroad lines before we enter into what is 537. PG&E is going to be coming in and replacing a gas transmission main with directional boring. But the first step in that process is they're going to be doing some potholing, boring, geotechnical explorations just to verify the location of the existing gas main as well as other utilities. And so what they are asking for permission for is to perform those explorations under this permit.
Okay, thank you. And are there any questions among the trustees? Trustee Ledesma.
Yeah, this one that you brought the point, which is this is just for, is this for the total job or just the exploration part of the job? I'm not does the permit cover the replacement, the actual replacement of the line, or just the boring and potholing to find the line and utilities?
This permit is just for the exploration process.
Thank you.
Trustee Alcala?
So Tim, so what is the exploration for again? What are they trying to find?
So they're attempting to determine the exact location of their existing main. There's also a petroleum line that runs through that region and communication lines. So they're trying to determine the extent of all the utilities in that region so that they can do their boring without interfering with any of them.
So I'm just wondering, I mean, how safe is this? And PG&E doesn't have a great track record, so I'm just curious, that's all. I'm sorry, did you hear me? I was
Yeah,
just
sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering how safe this is.
As far as the safety goes, we're relying on them, so I couldn't speak to the safety of their operations.
Have they sat down with any of our people in the city, Mayor, President Guerrero, I guess?
I don't know, Mr. General Manager, have they sat down? I think they meet with you, right? I think that's your jurisdiction for oversight.
Correct. They've spoken with me on what they intend to do here, but I don't know as to whether they have submitted anything to the city as well.
Okay.
I'm just a little concerned because PG&E does not have a great track record. So I'm just hoping that maybe they can give us some sort of assurance that this is safe.
Point taken. I think that's a good point. It looks like, just a quick question. I'm trying to take a look at the map of the location and any housing nearby. I don't see housing. It's West Capitol Avenue, but at the outskirts of it, near Lincoln Highway, past Enterprise. Is that correct?
This is entirely an industrial area. So
How close to the closest homes, residential?
I would say at least a half mile.
Okay.
Now, Tim, I think that, I'm sorry, Madam President, may I?
Trustee Correa.
Thank you. Tim, this is part of the tour I think we took over by, is it correct to say we did visit this area? Is that over by, say, Enterprise maybe, or by the Denny's, or can you clarify?
Yeah, so the extent of this goes to where 80 passes over the causeway and leaves town. It goes from there to the confluence of 80 and 50.
Okay, so is it
it's-
just a matter of like maybe habitat? Would that be only danger to habitat, perhaps?
Not even habitat, honestly. When they go to do the
Okay.
project, they will be doing the directional boring from the Thule Canal area, which is potential habitat. But the actual explorations are within city limits, and I don't believe there's any risk to habitat or housing involved.
Maybe it's better to just understand what exactly they're going to be doing so that because it didn't sound like that there's going to be much of a threat, but maybe it's because we are misunderstanding what it is that they're going to be doing.
Yeah, what they'll be doing is mostly potholing, which is, excavating down either by hand or with a backhoe and Vector truck to find where the existing utilities are at. There will also be limited borings where they're going to be boring into the levee, which is that's where the permit really comes in.
Okay, it sounds like exactly what I thought it was. Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
If I may, Madam President.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that's why I asked the question of step one, are they doing, is this both the excavation or the boring or the actual project of replacing a transmission line, which I think we all have in the back of our mind happened in San Bruno, and that's the real source of this, of our anxiety around it. And it's the fact that they're doing this work is the kind of their first safety step in terms of they've got to figure out where everything is before they actually do it. But I don't think it's out of line for us as a district, even though we're giving them, again, kind of the legal question for me is it allowing any disruption to, again, I'm assuming this permit covers the fact if there's any residual or collateral damage to the levee system, that they're responsible for that. And two, I do want an understanding of they're going to have to come back to us when they replace it, right? When they actually we're going to have to issue another permit to them for the actual replacement project, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I think from my perspective, I would like just some communication back. I would like some understanding of where else are they getting their permits from, whether it's through the city for that part of town, to kind of just having a much more. While we're only worried here in our capacity as board members for the reclamation district and concerned about the city, I think we want to be good partners to the city and ensuring we kind of got each other's back, that we're going to worry about the prism, but we also want to make sure they're covering for any kind of safety issues that go along with them. So I think if we can ask them to come back with a little bit more thorough plan about and know that they're getting what safety precautions they're taking with the city and so on, I think that would ease my mind a little bit. So again, just that's where my head is.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Carrying on a great conversation with myself. So I did a tour of the PG&E plant in Winters, and where they had all of these meters that showed where things were at. I don't know if it was just electrical or gas, but it had a lot of meters to detect things among all their lines. And I think it was really power, but if there's gas, there may be something here. So if they detected something, for them to go in and do this exploratory research, because they got to fix something, I think I'm interested in knowing why they're doing this. In addition to, being preventive and causing any damage to the gas lines. Any dent or anything caused to those gas lines can explode. And that was a pretty significant explosion out in San Bruno. But if they're doing something to prevent, if they're going to go to their next step, because they found that there's, a compromised gas line there that they need to fix, and they're going to be doing their research to see where they need to, fix that. I mean, I'm just curious to know, like, who are they talking to say, hey, we got a problem out here, we got to fix it up. It's in your city. I'd like for us to be aware of that. And so you have a contact in who submitted this application and letting them know as feedback, because you happen to have city council members receiving this report, which they may not be aware of. And we are kind of going on both sides here. We want to know what's going on. So as an RD board as well, who would communicate that back to the council and be more aware of, if they can contact like our city manager and just give them more background. So we're familiar with the project as well. That would be my suggestion. Okay.
I know digging through historical records, we do have a record of the original gas transmission main going through this area, and I believe it's from the 1960s. So my understanding is this is just something that is being done, just aged infrastructure. I don't know of any damage or any acknowledgement of a deficiency other than just age.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good to know. That makes me feel better. So yeah, if that's the case, then maybe a simple, that's all it is. And if that's the answer, that's good to know. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up for public comment. And is there any public comment, live or written?
No comments were received.
Okay, thank you. And we'll close it up and bring it back to the trustees. Do you have any comments, additional comments or questions? No? Trustee Ledesma, no?
I would make the motion to approve the permit with a notation that there be some correspondence back to this board about the status of the job, if we can coordinate with the city, just so everyone's, what's the word I'm looking for? There's full disclosure about what the project is. So just by memo would be appropriate, I think, but that's my motion.
Second.
Okay. Trustee Ledesma moved and Trustee Ledesma, I'll call a seconded. Mr. General Manager, can you please call the roll?
Yeah. Trustee Alcala.
Aye.
Trustee Orozco.
Aye.
Trustee Ledesma.
Aye.
President Guerrero.
Aye, motion is approved, and we'll move on to our number 8 informational items. Mr. General Manager, you have some reports.
Yeah. So as far as the highlights here, we had a few minor storm systems that moved through. No damage to any of our facilities. A little concern going into it that we would see some levee slope issues due to the inundation preceded by dry conditions, but we did not find any of that. We have taken all of our detention basins and held them all at higher levels than usual for winter conditions, just due to the fact that we are not seeing on the horizon sustained wet conditions. And we want to make sure that we don't have the same issues of our detention facilities drying out again. As far as 537 goes, that area that we took over, we did run into an issue where the control system for that pump station failed and is in need of removal and repair. Luckily, there's the ability to hand operate that, so we've been doing that for the time being. Turning on, they have 2 diesel pumps, and we've been operating those manually in order to keep that part of town pumped down. So that was an unexpected issue. As far as any projects we got ongoing, I believe we've got a sufficient update on Blacker. We're moving towards our conclusion of the process to meet our CEQA requirements. And I do want to update that on the federal level, the FEMA is in coordination with U.S. Fish and Wildlife in order to conclude their process for the NEPA. And so we are on a very good path there. And then as far as the Drever building remodel process goes, we've gone through another round of comments with the city. And at this time, we've had to bring in a civil engineer in order to do some calculations for stormwater runoff and structural sections within the city right-of-way for our ingress driveways, and should be coming to a conclusion soon on that. And I showed on our report that we didn't have anything to update with Central Valley Flood Protection, but we do currently have language being added to a bill for acquisition of the area for MA4. So that is actually moving along. So hopefully I'll have an update on Central Valley fairly soon, and we can proceed with acquisition of that area. And then as far as West Safeco goes with updates, I don't believe there's been any movement, but I will lean on Greg at this moment, see if there's been any changes there.
Oh, hi, good evening, Madam President and trustees. Just a quick update on the federal project. We're on schedule to complete the design of the next increment of the federal project mid-March. The CEQA and NEPA process is slightly behind that, scheduled for the April timeframe to be certified by the WSAFCA board on the CEQA side and then the Corps on the NEPA side. I think as most everybody knows, we did not receive a new start designation or construction funding. So the plan is to complete the design, get it on the shelf, have it ready for when we do receive the new start designation and construction funding, so we can be ready to go to construction immediately thereafter. While that project is on the shelf, we're going to continue to work with our state partners to advance investigations on the increment after the Yellow Bypass levee, which is the Sacramento River North levee. So we're going to start doing geotechnical explorations, surveys, both in the river, bathymetric surveys for looking for erosion, as well as landside surveys, and some preliminary environmental work, so that we can do those things, so that when the Corps does get funding, we'll have some of that investigative work done and be able to present that to the Corps to enable us to move forward with design. Now, whether we lead design again, like we're doing now on the Yellow Bypass project, remains to be seen. I think generally speaking, that's the plan, so that we can lead design while the Corps constructs. We can sort of do those things in tandem to be as efficient as possible in implementing this project. But that's the plan thus far. And of note, the PG&E project, it lies at the foot of the area of levee that is part of our federal project to construct next year. So we're hoping that there are not construction conflicts, as in next year they're wanting to do their pipe replacement while we're wanting to do the repairs on the levee. So that remains to be seen, and we are in contact with PG&E to determine what their plans are and let them know what our plans are and see if we can coordinate those efforts. So I think that's it. Unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Greg. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Greg.
Very good update. And I have a question related, I don't know if it's in your update. The legislation, I just checked right now, and our flood risk reduction project, which we tried last year, is been introduced by Assemblymember McCarty, AB 921.
That's correct.
I know we've been working on it, but I see it introduced as of yesterday. You may not have known about the number because it's fairly new.
Yeah, that has quite a few elements to that bill. There's one that authorizes has the state authorize our federal project, which is good. There's another piece to the bill that would extend the deadline to complete our flood protection project, to extend it by 5 years to 2030 instead of 2025. In the absence of federal funding, it's very difficult to implement a $1 billion project. So our ability to complete this by 2025 is becoming, that story's a lot harder to tell now. So anyways, we're looking for a legislative relief to extend that deadline to 2030. And then the other two items that Tim had mentioned, for the consolidation of the maintenance area, as well as some ability to appoint trustees to the board.
Pretty comprehensive. Thank you, Greg. And I understand we might pursue a budget related process for some of these proposals. Do you know?
mean for the federal project and getting a new start?
For any of the components of the bill. Oops.
Well, yeah, I think what we're looking at is having our bill be a trailer on the budget bill and have that implemented sooner rather than later, rather than, next September. So that's the plan at this point. So, and the bill was just introduced yesterday. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions among the trustees at this point? No? Okay. Okay. I guess the next item is the development project coordination. Oh, we can't hear you.
There we go. Yeah. The only update I have there is last year the board approved a permit for the Maverick site, which is a fueling station near West Capitol along Enterprise. And there's been some minor revisions of that, namely that they've had to raise their site in order to meet their drainage requirements. And as a result, there's some minor alterations, which will result in them extending the slopes of Lake Washington and adding some more revetment, but it's not anything that's a major change in their approach that would warrant an additional permit or revision of the permit. So I believe that is all I have for development project coordination at this time. Oh, I can't hear you, Martha.
Thank you. So are there any questions among the trustees on any of the items of the general manager report? No questions. Okay. We'll move to the next item, the trustee reports and updates. Are there any updates or reports? Oh, okay. And we'll adjourn then. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Orozco.
And trustee Orozco moved and trustee Alcala seconded. Mr. General Manager, please call the roll.
Trustee Alcala?
Aye.
Trustee Ledesma?
Aye.
Trustee Orozco? President Guerrero?
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
All right, everyone.
Take
Good night.
care.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.